Exclamation everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is Saturday night, September the 26th, 2015. This will be going up on Sunday, and it's normal time slot and all those things. I hope everyone has been having an excellent week. I have been having a pretty good one myself. Had some sleeping problems a little bit earlier in the week, but got over them. Every so often I get this random problem. I don't know if anybody else gets this. I promise I'll get to the video game talk in a little bit here. But just as a side note, since this is ramblings anyway, I don't know if anybody else ever gets this problem, but I, every so often, at random, will have a night where I will go to sleep and not actually have any sleep. And it's not really necessarily insomnia. It's more of I just kind of pass out for 7 hours and then I wake up and I don't feel like I got any sleep at all. It's more like the thing. It's like you literally, lay down the bed, close my eyes, and then my alarm clock's going off and I get up and like I haven't moved an inch. My hair's not messed up or anything like that. I just didn't get a darn lick of sleep. But thankfully that only happens once in a rare occasion, and I don't have to deal with that too often. But it does make the rest of the day really rough because it feels like you've been awake for 24 plus hours when in fact you actually did pass out at some point along the way. But anywho, back to semi things related to games. We're in the midst of the con seasons here, and I think EGX was just going on. I've been hearing rumblings of some things coming out of that. I don't have the link to the one game here, unfortunately, but I did want to mention really quickly. I've been seeing videos on a game called Dragon Quest Builders, which is basically a Minecraft thing, but set in the Dragon Quest 1 world, which for me is Dragon Warrior 1 here in the States, and a game that I really loved that I played back on the NES days. And it's got a little interesting take on it where basically at the end of that game, and at this point, I'm going to spoil the game because it is what it is. But at the end of that game, it's like 20 years ago. At the end of that game, you face off against the dragon, not the, what was it? The Dragon Lord. You face off against him. You finally get down into his castle. I think it was in Castle Sharlock. And of course, I'm using the names from the English version, the North American version. So some of the names have changed. Like the princess name here that I remember was called Gwaelin. But I think in the other versions of the game, it was some other name. I don't know what it was. I don't remember what it was, I should say. But so I'm going off of those names, but the Dragon Lord was in Castle Sharlock, and that's your main objective throughout the game, is to get there, level up enough to get in there, get through all the monsters along the way, and he's like level 8 or 9 basement level to get to there, and it's all random encounters and all that stuff. And you finally get to him, and he's in sort of semi-human form at that time. And he offers you a choice. He says, "Hey, join me or fight," right? And if you say, "Sure, I'll join you," the game's like, "Are you sure?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And then the game just ends, and it's just red. It's like you died, except it doesn't continue from there on, and that's it. The game's over for you. Obviously they wanted you to say no to that, and then you fight the Dragon Lord and you get the the actual the real ending of the game. But from what I understand, the Dragon Quest Builders is taking that concept, that final choice that you made, and it's assuming that you actually did say no, and that the hero became what was it? The hero of Edric. I think it was Erdrick. That hero actually did say no, or I'm sorry, actually did say yes, and joined with the forces of the Dragon Lord, and the Dragon Lord, you know, expanded across all of Elfgard. I think it's I never know how to pronounce it. It's Elfgard is what I always call it, but I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. The world that you're in Dragon Quest 1 and Dragon Warrior 1. So the evil spreads all the way across the land, and the Dragon Quest Builders is like picks up after that, where you're a person who sets up, using some magic, you're able to ward off the evil, and you set up a cities or towns, and you build them up square by square. You go out, you do quests, and you find, villagers and whatnot out in the world, and then they join your village, and you build up from there and try to rebuild civilization and fight off eventually the dragon or the evil and all that stuff. And you fight slimes and drakies and all the things that, from the original game. And it actually looks really cool. I'm not, for it being more of a Minecrafty thing, it actually reminds me a lot more here of Cube World in its look and feel than Minecraft does, especially with its, the objective-based stuff and building, obviously you don't build anything in Cube World yet, but if you were to take this and then put the building mechanics on top of it, like I remember at some point there was talk in Cube World of having a blueprinting system where you could find blueprints in chests, and then that would allow you to build cities and towns, or build buildings anyway. There wasn't going to be anything hardcore like Minecraft. It was just going to be like, hey, you can build stuff. And the Dragon Quest Builders thing, it's the same thing. You can find like blueprints and stuff and put those down, or you can build block by block. You do have to chop down trees, you do have to punch wood when you start out and all that stuff. And actually, honestly, I'm very intrigued by it, and I'm very upset too, because it doesn't seem like they're going to do it anywhere other than Japan, and it looks like it's going to be like a PS4, or actually they're saying PS3 and Vita, I think. I didn't see anything for PS4 on there, which is kind of odd, although maybe it is, and I didn't see it in the announcement that I saw for all that stuff. And and what they're saying is so far it's only been announced for, I think, January, and it's for Japan only. So there hasn't been any other release dates announced. So that's kind of a bummer, because that looks like a game that I would probably really enjoy, honestly. So I just wanted to mention that, because I saw that coming out of, I think it was either the Tokyo Game Show or out of EGX. I can't remember which one it was, because everything's sort of running into one another now. You got like the Tokyo Game Show just finished. You had PAX Prime finished a couple weeks ago. You had you have EGX that is just finishing up, and crap, what else? You've got like all the other cons going on, like the TwitchCon is going on right now, I think, and various other things. So it's definitely, con season is definitely in full swing right now. I'll talk a little bit about TwitchCon in a bit. What I want to do, though, before I jump into that, is I want to mention something that is, I want to geek out about Star Trek for a little bit. And it's tangentially related to gaming, so I'll hopefully you'll give me a pass on that. But there was there's a project that was announced called the Enterprise D construction project, something that of that nature, and it's being done in Unreal Engine 4. Now, it's not supposed to be a game, from what I can tell. It's just going to be sort of just a virtual walkthrough that they're going to have like an Oculus Rift hookup for it and all that stuff. But there is a video that I will link you guys to out on YouTube. It's a couple minutes long. It's takes a look at what they've got so far, what this guy's done. I think it's just a one-person project right now. What this person has done as far as trying to recreate the Enterprise D from Star Trek: The Next Generation in the Unreal Engine 4, and he's going. He or she is going based on the blueprints and other canon stuff whenever they can, but also the idea is to show off a lot of the areas that we've never seen in canon. For instance, the main one in the videos that you're seeing, or will be seeing, hopefully if you click on the link, he looks at the main shuttle bay, which we never get to see. We get a fleeting glance of it in Cause and Effect when they eventually at the very end listen to Riker and blow the main shuttle bay and try to get out of the way of Fraser Crane's ship. The Bozeman, USS Bozeman. Yeah, I am a geek. I am doing all this from memory. And it's we do briefly see it there. It was like a very small miniature mock-up, but nothing else. It was never actually used in the main run of the series because it was so large. It was too cost prohibitive to make a set for it. So every time you see the shuttle bays in the main series, with the exception of, obviously, you see the fleeting glance of it in Cause and Effect, and also apparently you see it in Encounter the Best of Both Worlds, Part 2, right? When they go and try to rescue Picard. Which I'm sorry if I'm giving out spoilers and you haven't watched it. You know what? It's going to happen. So my apologies. But I'll try not to be too spoilerific. But it's going to be hard for me not to be. And so we see, apparently in that Data and Worf launch a shuttlecraft from the from Shuttle Bay 1, although you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily because they use the same set that they always used for Shuttle Bay 2 and 3. So, but apparently they launched from that one. I always thought they had launched from the drive section, not from the saucer section, but I guess it makes more sense when you look back at it again that they probably launched from the saucer section. Anywho, those are the only two times that we ever see it. So, there's technical schematics that were written up for the game, or for the universe, the Star Trek universe, and going on that, based on those schematics, the Deck 2, pretty much the whole of Deck 2 on the ship, on the Enterprise D, was taken up by this shuttle bay, and it was basically the main workhorse. It, tons of room, and we're talking, the Enterprise itself is like the length of several, I think 600 football fields, American football fields or something like that, stadiums, in length. It's pretty darn large, so you can imagine how much space that would be. And it's so taking some creative liberties based upon what was in the technical schematics and whatnot. This person went and did a mock-up of it in Unreal Engine 4, and it looks spectacular. They acknowledged that they did some creative changes, like most of the shuttle bays had a gray floor, and it was like gray on gray and all that stuff, and they changed it to be a much darker floor, so that the floor art, all the paint on the floor and everything, the lines on the floor would stand out a little bit more, and it took more of a naval look at it, where there's stand clear and all that stuff, using the tractor beams to pull shuttles in and all that stuff. It was really cool mock-up there. At one point, my first time I looked at it, I went, oh, that is not the 10 forward lounge. I'm like, that doesn't leave. I mean, it kind of looks like it, but it's not. And then I realized he never actually leaves deck 2 or deck 1 in the demo. The demo is just, or the video that he shows off is just the first 2 decks of the ship, the bridge and the deck 2 with all the where you land on the main shuttle bay and all that stuff. So it was actually, when I looked back at it again, I looked at the lounge area. There's a couple lounge areas, which makes sense because, I mean, there's 1,024 people on the ship, so there's going to be lots of like crew recreational areas and all that stuff. But the one that said, you know, I thought it said 10 forward, but it wasn't. It was 2 forward, which makes more sense because it's deck 2, and it's much smaller look of the 10 forward lounge that we know from the series and from canon and all that stuff. And just a nice little walk around there. There's steps on the ship, and he shows off the bathroom, the head on the bridge, which you never see in the series, but it is there. It's on the hidden wall behind, where they would go to the observation lounge. And as a little in-joke, he put the 3 seashells on there from Demolition Man. So that was, you'll see that if you look at the video. It was pretty good. I as a big geek when it comes to Star Trek and all that stuff, it was really cool to watch that little, see what they're working on as far as just getting a nice, construction project and just showing off all the different areas of the ship. The thing that always bothered me, and I've probably talked about this once before, but one of the things that always bothered me about the movies, as far as the Next Generation movies go, is that they destroyed the Enterprise D in Star Trek Generations. And that always bothered me because, for me, I mean, I get why they did it. They did it because they were going to be in a widescreen format and not a 4:3 format. Movie theater format's much wider. And the saucer, the way the ship was designed, it was too oblong. It didn't look right in the wider screen format. It was kind of stretched. Although I think it looked really good in Generations myself, but there are the reasons where it was a little bit too stretched, and also the original model was very unwieldy to record on. It was they were literally passing cameras by it, and it was hundreds of pounds of just modeling stuff. I don't even know what they make the models out of. Urethane? I don't know what they're made of. But it was very unwieldy. It was very hard to work with. That's why a lot of the shots in the series were reused often, because it was just too prohibitive to try to shoot so many things with the ship. And so they really wanted to switch over to CGI because it was a lot cheaper and they could do a lot more with it. And that's, they started switching over to CGI in Deep Space Nine, and then they went full CGI for Voyager, I think, and Enterprise as well. So I think that's where they did. Some of the things in Deep Space Nine were not CGI. Like, I think the Deep Space Nine itself was not CGI. The station itself was not CGI. And they used some of the, like the Cardassian ships and whatnot, I think were still practical models. And of course the Enterprise in the first episode of that was a practical model as well. And they reused that, I think, for the Dominion War. When they first encountered the Dominion, it was the Odyssey, was a Galaxy-class starship that first was there when they went into the Gamma Quadrant and had some problems with their first encounter with the Dominion. But it was, I think that was, they probably used the practical model for that one too. I'm not entirely sure. But at some point during the series, they switched over to CGI. I think the Defiant was a practical model until season 6, maybe? And then I think they switched it over to being a CGI model, I think. I think at some point they did switch to CGI on that. But anywho, that's getting off way off on tangents there. But that's I just wanted to convey how excited that one video made me, because I love the Star Trek stuff. And actually, I was excited enough that I went out looking for. I've got my copy of Star Trek Birth of the Federation, which is something I've wanted to play on the channel for a while now. It's a real-time strategy game. I'm actually going to, and I am going to play it on the channel, but I'm going to hold off on it until I get finished with Deus Ex Invisible War, because I kind of don't want to have two older games like that going at the same time, because I know I still want there to be a variety going. So I'm kind of going to wait until I finish the series on Deus Ex Human Revolution, or I keep doing that, Deus Ex Invisible War. And then maybe I'll do it after that. Plus, there's another game that might also go hand in hand with Soul Zero as far as strategy-ish games go on the Tuesdays and Thursday slots. But we'll see. I haven't played that game yet. I just bought it. I'm not going to say what it is. I just bought it. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know if it's going to be something I do or not. But anyway, I was getting Birth of the Federation working. I found some patches out there that actually get it to work, that actually get it to be widescreen, which is awesome. So there won't be any letterboxing or anything like that. And get it to work in Windows 7, which I couldn't get it to do before. And somebody fixed the installer and fixed the game, patched the game up, so that it works in Windows 7 and Windows 8. And I believe they have another patch for Windows 10 as well. So I was very happy to see that. So I was playing a little bit of that last night after my live stream, my Mad Max live stream, and it was already getting its hooks back into me again. I was playing a little bit just to try to remember how everything went, because there's a lot to the game. It's just once you get the hang of it, it takes a little while to get the hang of it, but once you do, you start to see all the different stuff you got to do in the game. But anyway, that's my Star Trek my Star Trek spiel and everything. As always, I'll leave you a link to the YouTube video that sort of kicked off my re-nerding out again of Star Trek here. So I have two more bigger things, like longer kind of conversations to talk about here, and then I have another game that I'm actually looking at that is kind of different for me, but I'll leave that to the end maybe. Hopefully we'll have time. But the two things I want to talk about, TwitchCon, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is going on right now, and I'll link you to a Engadget article which also has embedded the keynote address. And a lot of people are talking about the keynote address because Twitch is finally actually innovating for a change. Maybe not innovating. They're finally doing something for a change. Finally announcing changes for a change to the platform. Namely, they're going to bring some more YouTube-like stuff onto the platform. So there's an idea. Well, they're going to do video uploads and playlists. Sometime next year, they're targeting that for, where you'll be able to upload videos just like you can on YouTube. You'll be able to have playlists, and then I think the way they're going to do it is that playlist will play. You can denote one that will play while your channel is offline. So as people come to your channel, instead of seeing, oh, this channel is offline and whatever static image you've put up, they would instead see your playlist playing. Now, I'm not sure how that actually works. I'm not sure if it always starts at the first video or if it's a playlist that will constantly be playing until somebody sees it. I'm not sure. To me, it seems like it would just always start over at the beginning, which is kind of weird, unless it does unless they do some randomness to it where it's like it'll randomly pick something from the playlist. Because otherwise, every time somebody would go there, they would always see the same thing, right? It would always start with the first video. So I don't know. I'm not sure how exactly that's supposed to work. But that's an interesting thing, because I've always thought to myself, like, man, it would be great if people came to the channel and actually saw something going on rather than this channel is offline. That's always been my big thing about the live streaming stuff, is that this is what I find hilarious about this whole thing. You know, YouTube was I guess, the step forward in many ways, because I'm not going to explain this too well, but in my brain, YouTube was sort of a culmination of the new way of doing things back in the day, right? So back in the day, you know, reality TV was really taking off. It still kind of is a thing, but not as big a thing as it used to be. But reality TV was taking off, and YouTube was like, you can go watch real people doing real things, right? So it was kind of based off of that. It was also based off of the idea that people were getting tired of having to schedule their TV viewing, right? Having to schedule their lives around TV, right? There was an resurgence of, you know, DVRs. I mean, obviously we had VCRs early on, but then there, you know, from that there came the idea of DVRs and being able to, you know, basically not have to drop everything because, hey, my show is on. You know, it's more like hey, I need to do this thing. I want to come back to this, but I don't want to miss it, and that kind of thing. And so that's where VCRs and DVRs and all that stuff came from that desire to be able to do that. But in addition to that, it also had the concept of you subscribe to what you want to see. You get to choose how you want to view things. Like you can have playlists where you can go just do sort of the binge watching, which a lot of people do on Netflix now and Hulu and all that stuff, right? The binge watching where you sit down and you watch an entire playlist or entire season up front. If you're subscribing to people, you're not really getting that. You're getting it as it goes along. But there's the idea that you can go find somebody on YouTube you can wait till they're finished playing a game and then watch them play the whole game all the way through, right? And I do see people, you know, even on YouTube today, sitting in the playlist, just letting the playlist go through and do their thing. So it does give it went from you have no power over when you have to change your life to meet the demands of these media companies. Are like, oh, we're only going to show this at this time on this week, you know, and that's it. If you missed it, then you missed it. You have to go buy a VHS tape, or you got to go buy a DVD. To being, hey, now it's on demand. You can do whatever you want. You can see it when you want to see it. You can see it when you've got the time. You can only see what you care about. You can only subscribe to what you want, rather than the cable subscription of here's 900 channels and I watch 2 of them, that kind of thing. I feel like YouTube brought a lot of that in, right? Just from the nature of being the first one out of the gate, and it was the way that things were going. And I thought the interesting thing about that was Justin TV and then Twitch were sort of back to the old way of doing things, right? Where it's like you've got live streams and you have to, if you want to see this person live streaming, you better plan your time around it, because if they're live streaming while you're asleep, well, you're SOL at that point, right? You're not going to get that interaction that you got. You can still watch a VOD, right? But you're not going to be able to participate in the chat. You're not going to be able to get that same level of interaction. You'll just be able to hear what happened if you missed it. And that's always, in my brain, has always been sort of the dichotomy going on between these two services, where I feel like YouTube is the way people want their content, and Twitch is the way how can I put this? Twitch is that missing piece from the way that people want to do things. Like, if it would be possible for people to not only have their stuff on demand when they want it, but also interact at the same time in real time with that content creator and get the same level of interaction with them plus other people, like that would be the ultimate in experiences, right? For people, right? They could have their cake and eat it too. But obviously, you know, we're not time travelers, except forward very slowly, right? So you can't really necessarily do that. And time zones are, let me tell you, time zones suck. They suck for normal human beings, and they suck for programmers, because I've programmed so many things that require time zones, and they always are terrible. Every one of them is terrible. I'm sorry, are you 10.5 hours ahead of me, or are you 5 hours behind me? I don't know. Let's go find out. So with all that said, that's the way that I've always separated the two services. Now, the YouTube gaming really had to be a separate thing because of that nature, right? It's like YouTube and YouTube gaming are kind of just different beasts in and of themselves, even though they're the same engine under the hood. It's that their use cases are different enough that they really did warrant being sort of separated as they are. Even though they're joined at the hip, they're kind of separate too. And from that perspective, Twitch also provides that service, right? Now, that said, Twitch is more of has got more, rose to popularity more for its esports stuff. And that makes sense, because, sporting events are always going to be that thing that you're not going to want to necessarily watch replays of, right? Because by the time you get into work, or the next day, or you are, at some, if you're in a group of friends that all like that same sport, they're going to be talking about it even if you've missed it, right? So it's hard to avoid spoilers with that kind of thing. So it makes perfect sense from that perspective, that sort of is where that lives. I think that the idea that Twitch is sort of promoting right now is that, well, cake and eat it too mentality, right? Which is, well, YouTube thinks that they're going to muscle in on us, so we're going to do all the YouTube stuff too. And it's like, well, I don't know that is really the thing that's going to be what you want it to be. Right? I don't think that's going to be like, all right, well, now everybody's going to leave YouTube and go to that. I kind of doubt that. I think everybody has this notion that if they want to see highly edited, produced things, that they're going to keep going to YouTube for that. And if they want to interact with their favorite YouTuber, or they want to watch esports or something like that, then they'll go to Twitch for that. I don't know that Twitch is going to muscle in on the YouTube thing, right? And you're not, there's a thought that maybe, without the content ID, everything will be great. And to a certain extent, yes. To a certain extent, content ID, being able to upload things to Twitch and not have to worry about content ID would be awesome. Although they do still mute your music, but they don't do, as far as I know, they don't do visual content matches, right? So in that realm, it does make it a little bit more, applicable, a little bit more exciting. What word am I trying to use here? A little bit more appealing. That's the word I'm trying to use. It does make it a little bit more appealing to those of us who do YouTube stuff, because there's nothing more frustrating than having a visual content ID match on a cutscene, right? It's like, you go and play an entire game all the way through, and you have no problems with it. You've done everything you can to mitigate not getting, music matches and all that stuff. You play the music very lowly. You talk over what you can, and then you get all the way to the very end, and the very final cutscene, bam, you get content ID'd on it. And you've just put, 40 hours into a game, and just at that very last home stretch, you can't show it. And it's just like, there's nothing more annoying than that. And I think right now Twitch would have an advantage in that regard, because yes, that is annoying enough that enough people would probably start to upload on there, if only for things that they know that are not going to float on YouTube, or don't float on YouTube. But I'm not sure how, they may end up in the same problem that Google and YouTube ended up in, where Viacom comes running along and goes, you can't show these things. They could upload movies on here. And at some point somebody's going to upload a movie at some point and and that's even tangentially related to gaming and say, oh, well, you said this is a gaming site, so I uploaded pixels. And nobody watched it, but I still uploaded it. So I just I have a feeling they might end up going that way. Especially, they've been doing some weird things. My gut tells me that when I start to see, here's where I start to get really, here's where I start saying some things that I probably shouldn't say, because they make me sound very bitter, bitter old man. But California-based companies, technology companies, they sometimes go through this thing that I call stupidity. And you start to, it gets to a point where you scratch your head and you go, as an outside observer, you're like, what is going on here? Why is this happening? Why are they making these choices? These don't make a whole lot of sense given how people use this platform. And I can tell you, in no specific terms, that my experience that I've had in the past from past companies is that if you follow the money, if you look at the VCs, you will understand why some of these things are happening. I have a feeling, this is my gut feeling, that these changes are coming about not because they make any sense for Twitch to do, but because the venture capitalists and the investors in Twitch are saying, like, you need to be this in order to have this money continue to flow. You need to do this. You need to have a mobile app. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I have a feeling that that's what's born of a lot of these changes that are going on. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be doing the playlist stuff. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be making a few of those changes. Like, some of the changes make sense. Like the whisper stuff sounds cool. They're still not addressing the elephant in the room, which is, hey, how about transcoding options for everybody instead of just for partners? But I guess that's what they're using as their hook, even though it's a stupid hook and probably shouldn't be there. But that's what they're doing, for better or worse, which means that I will continue to hate that platform forever and a day, because everything looks like crap on it, no matter what settings you put in. Which is why I stream to 3 different services now, because I can just say, hey, if your Twitch is buffering for you, then go over to YouTube Gaming or go over to Hitbox, and those won't buffer for you. So there you go, because that's the best I can do for you. But it's I just have a feeling, my gut feeling tells me that some of these changes are born out of just clueless investors asking for things because they want they want to artificially increase the valuation of the company for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, they're now under the auspices of Amazon, which means they're probably Amazon is flexing their muscles a little bit now. Maybe this is a sign that Amazon is trying to combine their platforms. And, the Amazon on-demand video and all that stuff, maybe they're going to have that fall under some umbrella that is also Twitch, or who knows what. Because it sounds to me like maybe that's what it might be. That too. It might be a cross-promotion. Like, we're going to let you upload your videos now on Twitch and all that stuff. And then we might, since we've got video on demand and all that stuff, now we might do what YouTube kind of does a little bit and say, like, oh, hey, here's Amazon Prime over here, and you can rent some videos and stuff, and we'll kind of track your cookies, and we'll have some tracking cookies on here, and we'll see what you're looking at and who you're following, and then we can give you some advertisements for those things, and then that'll you do some like homogenation across the platforms. So it could be some of that too. I don't know. Trying to read minds is still something that I fail miserably at. Because most of the time it's me just being cynical because of how, having been a programmer for a while now, it's I've seen the decision-making processes in a lot of different companies. And sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense even to the programmers who are there doing it. But that's my thoughts on that. I don't know. Again, it's like with the Twitch music stuff. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do other than they're trying to get people to go buy stuff on Amazon is all I can think of there. They're not, I highly doubt that they would unseat YouTube unless they do something completely different. Like if they have a better navigation in YouTube, a better playlist thing, or they gotta do something different. Like, if they say like our gaming videos fall under DMCA rather than a content ID thing, and you don't have to worry about this, you don't have to worry about people abusing content ID, other YouTubers who are much bigger than you abusing it and taking your revenue from your videos and all that stuff. And it just, that's the only thing I can think. I mean, that would be the immediate benefit of it, is that, we don't have that nonsense going on, at least initially. But who knows what would happen if it became popular, if it actually became something that people did a lot of, what would happen there. But interesting stuff. At least they're finally changing the platform a little bit. I mean, there's that to hope for. Obviously, no platform is stagnant. They're always doing stuff in the background that you never know about. But having some actual features announced, and going to HTML5 player and getting rid of Flash finally, I will be so happy when Flash is no longer a thing on the internet. I will be incredibly happy that when that becomes a thing. But yeah, that's I don't have much else I can offer with that, other than it's business as usual as far as I'm concerned with the streaming and stuff. So that is, I'll leave you a link again to the Engadget article that talks a little bit about it, and then has the embedded video for the keynote speech, so you can watch it yourself. All right, we're getting a little bit low on time, but I think I'll be able to get through these next two. SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio, I don't know what the A is. Actors, television, radio actors, I think. SAG-AFTRA. They, that union, covers the big name voice actors in video games. So I'll give some examples here. We've got, I want to make sure I get the names right. So Jennifer Hale, from, the FemShep most notably, Will Wheaton, Ashley Birch, Birch, I think is how you say her name, Birch, maybe Birch, Life is Strange, David Hayter, which is from Metal Gear Solid's Snake from 98 to 2010. I don't know this other person. Elias Trofexis. I am going to butcher these names. I am so sorry. From Deus Ex Human Revolution, he's Adam Jensen. Tara Strong, Harley from Batman Arkham City. Steve Bloom. Phil Lamar. Quentin Flynn, who played Raiden in various Metal Gear Solid games. I was gonna say something else, but that is what that says. And many others who are part of that union. They are voting. I don't know what the vote was. I read something that said the vote was to strike, and others that said that they haven't quite finished voting yet. I don't know which way it is yet, but they're voting to go on strike, potentially going to go on strike for better pay, better working conditions, so on and so forth. Right now, what the gist of what they're looking for is, and I'm not going to hit all the bullet points here, but the gist of it is they're looking to get some residuals from actual, very large, well-performing games. So if the game sells 2 million copies, they would get a certain percentage of the sales or residual percentage. And then every 2 million thereafter, up to a maximum of 8 million copies sold, they would get higher tiers of benefits from that, residual bonuses or whatever the proper name of it is for each of those, those milestones being hit. In addition, they're looking to get some better working conditions. Apparently, they want to get some hazard pay and whatnot for when they do particularly physically or voice draining or voice difficult lines. Like for instance, if you're recording like grunts and just very, very difficult things that would wreck your voice after a while of doing it, they want to get some rules around that. First of all, they want to get so that you only do like 2-hour sessions at a time with that. If you're going to do that, they want to know ahead of time that's going to happen, which I think is reasonable. I think the 2-hour session is reasonable too, because a lot of times what they're saying is that it's they might be working for 8-hour recording session, and at the end of that 8-hour recording session, they're then destroying their voice with this, doing these grunts and all this other stuff and all the very hard, hazardous, difficult acting, voice acting, difficult lines and whatnot. So they're trying to get some changes around that, and also the studios are trying to make it so that they would be penalized for coming to work and not being 100%, whatever that means. So like if they're not quite engaged, which I think is the word they use, like maybe they look at their cell phone for a minute or something like that, or maybe they're slightly not, they're slightly tired or something like that they could get fined like $2,500 each time that happens. That's kind of spiteful, I would say. That's actually rather spiteful, I would put. And then they also want them to so obviously the voice actors want to not have that happen, and the publishers, the companies working on that wanted the actors to be forced to audition for things without knowing any knowledge of what they're auditioning for or anything like that. But they, if they didn't show up for an audition, even if it's something that they didn't want, they would have to pay some kind of fine and stuff. It's just ridiculous stuff. So a lot of the stuff they're fighting for, I can see being a good thing all around. I don't necessarily have a problem with any of that. I know that a lot of people are bringing up, and rightfully so, that the voice actors are not, they come in, they do their thing. It's difficult, it's straining, but they're there, at most they're probably there, 15 days, if even that, or 15 hours even, who knows. They're there for a very short period of time, but everyone else who works on the game is there for years. And, you got developers, you got producers, you got all kinds of people who work on the game who don't necessarily get the same benefits as these actors are asking for, and probably don't. They work long hours on salary. They get relatively low pay. I say relatively, I don't know what it is anymore. And other things of that nature. And I don't necessarily disagree with that either. I'd be the first one to say, yes, programmers should get paid really well and should have good benefits and all that stuff. Producers and everyone else too. But I don't know, from what I can tell, the things that they're asking for, that the union is asking for, are things that they get from other fields, like from movies and television, which is why it makes it more reasonable to me, because it's like, yeah, hey, we get this stuff for movie and television. Why can't we get this from here? And, you know, gaming is a big deal now. It's as big as movies and television, I would say. Like these games, these big budget games make a whole lot of money if they sell millions and millions of copies. So I'm sort of more aligned with that and saying like, yeah, okay, that sounds reasonable. If they're asking for the same kind of things that they would get elsewhere. That said, I don't know what, as far as like programmers and producers and all that stuff, I don't know what that looks like in television and movies. Like, I don't know, like some of the arguments are, well, you know, if the voice actors are going to get, you know, residuals and all that stuff, then, you know, the programmers and everything else should get residuals, and the producers and all that stuff. And I don't know, I can't say yes or no to that. I mean, on one hand, yes, they should get paid bonuses. They should get all this stuff because, you know, they've worked hard. But on the other hand, I don't know how that works in movies and television, right? Do the producers in you know, not producers, I'm pretty sure the producers do, but do the like cinematographers and key grips and catering services, and, you know, do they you know, the talent scouts and all that stuff, do they, in movies and television, do they get residuals for the movies that they work on, or are they just a simple contract and then that's it? Like, I don't know how that works, because I would say if that's the case, then it should probably work the same way in gaming, because it is entertainment, right? We're still talking entertainment here. Like me personally, I don't work in entertainment. I work in just business programming, right? So I don't expect that I'm going to get residuals and stuff from writing. Oh, I wrote a function that's, you know, I wrote a function that went into a feature that's being used by 20% of our user base, so I should get something for that. Like, no, that's not practical for me. But in the entertainment realm, it seems a little bit more practical, since that is more quantifiable, right? I still kind of, you know, I still expect like raises and bonuses and all that. Maybe not bonuses, but raises and stuff, you know, like and decent working conditions. You know, I've put my share of very long days in, you know. I think the longest I went was 36 hours without sleep. It's not fun sitting in an office watching the sunrise while you're waiting for code to compile. It's also very, very hazardous to your health, as I found out. But it's and I agree. You know, I'd say, you know, they should get, from what I understand, and this was a long time ago, when I first was looking at programming, I thought, hey, it would be great to be in games programming. But I heard many, many years ago that games programmers were not getting paid anywhere near what business programmers like myself get paid. You know, software engineers. And I don't know if that's ever changed or not. Like, at that time, it was something like, you know, a software engineer would be getting something like, and this was years ago, so it'd be like 75 grand or something. Whereas and that was, you know, if with low experience, like, you know, not entry level. Entry level is even less than that, but like maybe 3 to 4 years of experience. Whereas in gaming, the same 3 to 4 years of experience, and this is, again, years and years ago, so don't quote any of these numbers, but it was something like on a realm of like, for that same amount of experience, like 40 grand. Like, there was a big gap there. And I don't know if that gap still exists. I assume it does, by what I've heard, by what I've seen, by articles I've seen. But I don't know what the gap is anymore, or how big it is, or how, if it's shrunk or not in these many years. But you know, that at that time, the big problem was there was a huge brain drain when it came to gaming, because people would go into, they would come out of college, they'd go work for a game developer, a AAA company for 2 years, and then they'd burn out because it was constant crunch time. They were not getting paid well, and there was too much crap it was just terrible working conditions, and they would, that company would lose half, if not 3/4 of their staff just to attrition, not layoffs or anything like that. They would just leave, attrition. And they were constantly in that brain drain situation. So that's why, it took forever and a day for game companies to finally start adapting, things that programmers out in the real world were doing, like source control and having reusable engines and agile development, where you've got sprints and cardboards and all that stuff. So it's stories and tasks and all that. So that's, I think, mostly because there was just people just were cycling in and out. It was just a rotating door on the front of those buildings, from what I understand. But I don't know if that's gotten any better over the years or any worse. I don't know, or stayed the same. I have no idea. I think the general feeling that I have is that when it comes to entertainment, people have to get paid whatever is typical for entertainment, right? So if you're making this game now, from what I understand, a lot of people are just contractors on games, and after the game is done, those contractors are generally out of a job. There's very few full-timers, right? A lot of them are just out of a job and they have to go find another job, find another contract to work on. So that being the case, it makes a lot of sense that if they're going to do this, do a game and put all that work and effort into it, that they probably should everybody on there should probably get something for it. In an ideal world. In the real world, I think it should model whatever is the case for movies and TV, because other entertainment mediums. I think it should model whatever that is. And if the people behind the scenes of other entertainment mediums don't get that kind of benefits, then so be it. If the voice actors and the people in front of the screen, quote unquote, get those benefits, then they probably should get them for video games too. It's the only way that I could see that this would be fair-ish to everybody. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I don't know all the details of it. I've linked you to an article that has links to official sites and other things. So you can go educate thyselves, and hopefully you'll take something out of it, maybe even more than what I've tried to convey here. Like I said, I don't have any horse in this race. I like to see everybody get treated well in a perfect world. I know that it's not a perfect world that we live in, but if in the absence of a perfect world, at least have a standard and follow the standards of other entertainment mediums. That's my thoughts on that. All right, we are getting close to the end here. One more thing, if I can fit this in, hopefully. There is a game. I'm going to link you to IGN. There's a game, a survival horror game, that I have been interested in since I first saw it. And I'm not normally interested in survival horror games. But this one's got me for some reason. It's called P.A.M.E.L.A. It's on Greenlight right now. It's looking for votes. And it's actually, I think, #1 on Greenlight, so maybe it's not looking for that many votes. But it's a sci-fi survival horror game. Yes, there's plenty of those right now. But the artwork in it is beautiful. And it is a zombie thing. There's zombies running around, kind of, sort of, but it's got a Deus Ex thing too, and a little bit of a Mirror's Edge thing, where it's got the aesthetics of Mirror's Edge, sort of, and the Deus Ex where you have biomodifications and stuff like that. It looks fantastic. I will link you to IGN. There's a video on there. You should take a look at it. But that will be it for me for this week. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.